Welcome on into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here answering questions from our live show, which airs every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you have a question you want to ask, tune in next Thursday and we'll get your question on screen for everyone watching to see. First question coming in from Mason B. Petey, is the order to not play Falcons starters in the preseason coming from the very top? Is Arthur Blank mandating this? I can't remember the last coach that has done so. I don't think Arthur Smith would choose to micromanage over. I'm sorry, Arthur Smith. Arthur Blank. I've got Steelers week 1 in my head. I don't think Arthur Blank would choose to micromanage in the preseason. There are owners who like to micromanage. Like David Tepper from the Panthers is infamous for this. Arthur Blank, I think, is relatively hands-off. I think he wants to say. I don't think he wants to be a complete backseat guy, but I think he wants his head coach and GM to feel like they have the freedom to make the picks they want. I think it was Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris that drove the ship on Michael Penix and had to convince Arthur Blank to let them do this. So when it comes to preseason football, I'd be surprised if Arthur Blank chooses that battle to fight, but he is the owner. He could do whatever he wants. However, I can't say definitively one way or the other. I hope the Falcons and other teams learned that you should play your starters a little bit in the preseason. Otherwise, you get an NFL low amount of touchdown passes in week 1 across all 32 teams combined over the last 6-7 seasons. Montel Carter, is Kirk hurt? I mean, I wouldn't say that's the $1 million question, but like if we're doing this deal or no deal style, that's like the $500,000 case. Like Kirk Cousins is not hurt to the point where he can't play football altogether, but I do think he is limited, and I do think the Falcons are kind of covering that up. I also think there's some level of like jitters to coming back from an injury mentally. I mean, Kirk Cousins is a guy who's been healthy his entire career. For the first time, he's got to mentally like learn to trust his body again, and that might take some time. So hopefully he is healthy physically, but maybe mentally he needs some more time to trust his leg to, plant that back foot and really drive off of it. But I'm watching clips of him in practice move around and practice play action and whatnot. But then on Sunday, we saw zero of it. So if he can do it in practice, I hope he can do it on the field. The Bright Wolf, do you think Kirk Cousins and the offensive line will handle the Eagles' defense? Sometimes I think fans forget that this is a sport and that players can have a good game and a bad game and then do it all over again the next week, but reverse it. So while the Falcons' offensive line did not have a spectacular showing against the Steelers, they are athletes and they are highly paid athletes, and I think they are capable of bouncing back and not letting one game set them on a course for the entire season. So hopefully they can. Do I think they will? I think they'll be better than the Steelers. They're not going up against TJ Watt, but the Eagles still have a lot of really good pieces on that defense. But I don't think it's going to be a complete 180, but I think it'll be an improvement and a step in the right direction. Evan Cook, how do you think this loss affects our playoff chances? 26% of teams. Let me back up. Since the NFL expanded to a 14-team playoff, beginning in 2020, 26% of teams that made the playoffs lost in week 1. So how does it affect your chances? That, like only 26% of teams make the playoffs after losing week 1 since the playoff expansion. 26 is not a small number. Like you still have a pretty good shot at it. I still like the chances even at 0-1 for the Falcons, given how unproven this NFC South is. However, the Saints and the Bucs looked pretty good in week 1, so I don't think they're fading away just yet. Antonio Kurtz, do we need to lean on Bijan? Robinson had 23 touches in week 1. That was a career high for him. His snaps was a top 5 amount of snaps he's ever had in his career as well. So Atlanta leaned on Bijan plenty in week 1, and I hope they do that again in week 2. Like, this is an offense that has a superstar in the making in the backfield. They should use him, especially if Kirk Cousins is not really 100%, even if the Falcons want to pretend that he is. So I think Atlanta should lean on Bijan 100%. Now, before we look at the other questions you guys have, today's show was made possible thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. One Kaleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. So here are my selections for this upcoming Sunday. Going with the more on Kaleb Williams, of course. And then I like the more on Jamison Williams. 45.5 receiving yards. He went way over 100 in week 1 for Detroit. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks. Run your game. Getting back to a few of the questions we had come in. Jamil Vargas. A random question, but in the past 5 years, what has been the most entertaining season for the Falcons in your opinion? All right, let's go back 5 years then. Like 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019. Entertaining? I think it probably just goes in reverse order. I think it's just gotten less entertaining every single year, right? 2019 to 2020, like you're kind of catching the end of the Matt Ryan era, still hoping to squeeze some good football out of him and, try and hit the, not reset button on Dan Quinn, but the salvage button on Dan Quinn. I guess the better answer here, Jamil, and I don't know if you want this, but the least entertaining season would probably have to be last year. It was just not fun watching Ritter and Heineke whatsoever. No primetime games. That was just a low point, it felt like. So, entertaining, I'd have to go with 2019. Like, at least at that point, you were still in earshot of the great 2016 and 17 seasons and making the playoffs and still feeling like, you know what, this is still a similar roster that can compete. But since then, it's just gotten less and less and less entertaining. Archangel, will the Falcons get Allgeier more involved this week? He had 10 snaps for 2 carries. I think so, but at the same time, I think in order to get Allgeier involved more, the offense has to stay on the field more. I think the usage for Allgeier should be looked at as a percentage, not as a total snap count. The offense, especially in the second half, was just punt, 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 and then running into your guy in motion, fumble, interception. Like, there just weren't enough first downs to keep the ball moving and keep the drive alive for Allgeier to get touches. So, you want to get Allgeier involved more? Stay on the field longer. That's step one right there. I don't think that snaps should be taken away from Bijan. I think there just needs to be more offensive snaps for Allgeier to see the rock more. What's going on, Jason? Did you hear that Michael Lombardi rant? Jason, first off, appreciate the CLNS and the A-Town. I have not heard it because it happened just before we went live, but I am itching to hear it. So at this moment, I am in the dark on this, but by the time this goes out, I will have watched it. So before I watch it, let me just make a conclusion, go on it, and go, screw Michael Lombardi. Rise up. Have no idea what he said, but I know he said something that's got really in the feels of Falcons fans, so I'm team whatever the other side of Michael Lombardi is. Vincent, should the Falcons get rid of Kaleb McGary? I don't think Kaleb McGary should go anywhere this season. I don't think he is as bad as sometimes we make him out to be. He's still a very good run blocker, which traditionally, your left tackle is a pass blocker, your right tackle is a run blocker. So for me, I think Kaleb McGary can play out the rest of the season, and if it doesn't go well, then you know what? Move on from him. There's very little dead money after this year. There's only 1 year left on his contract after this season. So play it out, but I'm not ready to pull the plug on him for this season just yet. Long term, It's not looking great for him to fulfill the rest of his contract. We'll see what kind of offensive identity Atlanta wants. Plus, if you think about it this way too, let's say they want to get Michael Penix starting next year, which I don't think is the case, but just bear with me for a moment. He's a lefty. All of a sudden, your right tackle needs to be your Jake Matthews, your pass protector, because that is Penix's blind side. So as soon as Penix gets here, a serious investment needs to be made in the right tackle position as a true pass protector, because that's going to be the most important guy in the offensive line. Matthew Fulton, is the idea of obtaining John Metchie out of the window at this time? I think the Falcons are probably going to let the next few weeks play out before the NFL trade deadline, which is early November. There's still a lot of football to be played until then, so I don't think they are rushing to make an acquisition at this point. The season's underway. They've got their roster. Ray McCloud outplayed Drake London and Darnell Mooney in week 1, which I did not think I would be saying a week ago. So they don't have like a major depth issue at the moment. They got to get Drake London and Darnell Mooney going. So I think priority number 1 for getting more play out of the receiver room isn't going external. It's fixing internal, because you've got guys that you drafted top 10 and paid a boatload of money to in free agency. Get them going before we start looking at John Metchie. Matthew Fulton, appreciate your question. Last one coming in from Archangel. Do the Falcons come out more prideful this game with some passion, some anger, some fight spirit? Also, will the coaching plan be a bit better this weekend? I was a little concerned about the way Raheem Morris answered some questions to the media about the game plan. He gave us one big word salad, just talking about the game plan without ever actually acknowledging that the game plan sucked. It was not a good game plan. No matter what way you slice it up or dress it up, you could put lipstick on a pig telling me that Kirk Cousins should not have a single play action snap when he is the play action czar. No, I don't care what you tell me or how the game didn't go your way. No, the game plan better be better. Now, will they have more fighting spirit? I mean, now we're talking about the character of this locker room. How are the leaders going to rally? There are a lot of really good veteran leaders. Justin Simmons, a captain from his time in Denver. Jesse Bates, a captain. Jake Matthews, here for a decade. Kirk Cousins, an ultimate veteran. It's up to those guys to make sure no one else is panicking. They got to be steady. They got to stay the course. Last question this time from Carson. Should we invest in a right tackle first round next year like Emery Jones to protect Penix's blind side? Carson, I like the question. I think it's got to go pass rusher. Now, it's hard to say what the draft class is going to be looking like next year and where Atlanta will be picking to begin with, but I think you got to go pass rusher. Matthew Judon is probably not going to be a long-term solution for you at that position. So for me, I still think pass rusher number 1. Then we can look at right tackle. But for now, I still think pass rush. Who do you got, by the way? Falcons or Eagles? Battle of the Birds on Monday night. Let me know in the comment section below who you got. I want to see only ATLs.